Welcome back, FM Talk 1065 in Mobile Mornings. Pleasure once again to welcome Bryan Comer back into studio with us. He's with the local injury law firm TOBIAS, McCORMICK and Comer. Bryan, thanks for joining us again today.
Thanks for having me, Dalton. Always a pleasure.
So we're here. We made it. We're in holiday season 2021. It's been a long year for a lot of folks and, of course, a joyous time of year for many, but it can also be a really dangerous time of year. Lots of people traveling to see family or have family traveling to see them, and I know you at TOBIAS, McCormick, and Comer are interested in getting people where they're going safely.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the holidays, like you said, are a joyous time, but unfortunately they're also a very stressful time. You know, more traffic on the road. There's always, it seems like, way more things to do in a day than hours to do them in. And it always just seems like it just kind of builds on itself. And unfortunately, we carry that around with us, and sometimes even on the road, and bad things can happen when that does happen.
Yeah, it's a stressful time of year for so many people. And when you add that onto the stresses of holiday traffic and travel, then you end up in some pretty precarious positions. And I know at TOBIAS, McCormick, and Comer, you guys have represented many people in cases that span, you know, the variety of things that could happen when you're traveling. And I know you have some information on car accidents, and we see plenty of those in the holiday season. It seems like in rural accidents that those might not happen as often as some of the fender benders like we see on Airport Boulevard, for instance, but a lot of times they can end up being a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, the statistics really show that. While you're right, I mean, the frequency of wrecks, the number of wrecks happen more often when there's more people. The sad truth is that in a rural area, the wrecks typically are more severe, and I'm sure that there's several things that go into that. Oftentimes on rural roads, you know, particularly at night, they're dark, 2-lane roads, and the margin of error is a lot smaller there. We actually had a case once up near Alexander City that was very tragic, where an 18-wheeler had broken down in the middle of the night on a 2-lane road, didn't have his flashers on, no lights illuminated, and unfortunately our client came and hit him and died. And so, you know, the margin of error is just so small. There's usually not a shoulder to pull off on, and again, with the light, it's just really important to be mindful and to be careful and you know, drive slowly and make sure you arrive alive.
Yeah. What are some tips you have for, say, someone is preparing for either a long trip to go see grandma and grandpa, or maybe it's even just for us, some of us, a short trip across the bay. You have any tips for somebody who's really planning for a trip like that to kind of get ready?
Yeah, sure. We actually just spoke with Senior Trooper Peoples with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, and she had some really great tips. You can see all of them on our website at tmclawyers.com. But there's some big ones that people can take into account. First of all, know where it is that you're going and plan your trip accordingly. You know, I'm guilty of this as anybody, but make sure that when you actually get behind the wheel and you leave, make sure your tank's full.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes, particularly as I'm driving down, it always seems like it happens on Interstate 65. You see, hopefully, and usually this is the case, the opposite direction of travel if there's a really bad accident, and traffic can be backed up for miles.
Yeah.
Well, if that happens, you can get stuck, you know, for hours on the interstate. And so it's always good to make sure that you have a full tank of gas so that you can get where you're going. And like I said, I'm guilty of it, where you think, oh, okay, well, I'll just get gas at the most opportune time, and you might not have that.
Right.
And so particularly if you're going to be going on even just across the bay, you break if there's a bad wreck on the Bayway, as you know, you're going to be sitting there for a long time. So, you know, aside from making sure that your car's maintained, make sure it's filled up with gas. Make sure you've got things handy, particularly if, like us, we've got small kids and we're traveling, that you've got things handy, the wet wipes and all that sort of thing that you could need so that they're handy and available.
Yeah. You know, when I turned 16, I know I'm not alone, people gift you things for your new ride, right? Your new lifestyle. And one of those things is always like a roadside kit with the whether it's flashers or one of those that you just put out on the side of the road that's a reflector to let people know, hey, I'm stopped over here. I'm changing a tire, or I have something going on. So I'm sure, first off, making sure you're far enough off the road or as far as you can safely be, but when it comes to liability, say I am on the side of the road and someone runs into me, does it make a difference whether or not I have those flashers out there, or I have things that are set to say, hey, I'm over here, don't come and hit me because I'm on the side of the road, or if I've just had my truck completely turned off and it's dark? And is there a difference in those cases that you've seen?
Yeah, so there definitely can be. Like the case I was mentioning earlier, the commercial truck was off on the side of the road with absolutely no warning lights, and none of those reflectors or the triangles or things like that you were discussing. And so in a commercial vehicle, absolutely, because DOT regulations require certain things for commercial vehicles to be able to say, I believe there's the three triangles they have to put out at so far, and there are other requirements too. But then even aside from a liability standpoint, you just always really want to make sure that you're visible to people. Okay, I recommend, and one of the things that I do is keep a vest and a reflective vest. So if you have a flat tire in the middle of the night, you put that thing on so that people can see. Have a flashlight with working batteries in it, and that's because the whole thing is, the more time you give somebody from you being lit up and people being able to see you, that's the longer that they have to see you, to perceive you, and then to react and miss you.
Right.
And then that makes sure that you and them get where they want to be safely. But to answer your question, there can be liability if you do break down. To be a lawful vehicle on the road of Alabama, you've got to make sure that you have things in your vehicles in proper working order. And one of those things is that you have to have the flashers. And so when you pull over, you want to make sure that you got your flashers activated, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Great points there. Another big thing, of course, this time of year, I always hate talking about it, but driving under the influence.
Yeah.
You see it really year-round, but it seems to be prevalent along holiday season.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting little facts that Aaliyah shared with us was that Christmas night, there's a way higher prevalence of drinking and driving and drug-related accidents than more so than New Year's Eve. And that was my reaction.
Yeah.
It was surprising. And whether that was people being lonely from not being with their family, maybe that being from people being with their family too long, whatever the case may be for folks. But the sad reality is that there are typically more parties. There are typically more events for the entire holiday season. And so that then means that people take chances, do things that they're not supposed to do, and it's never a good idea to drink and drive, ever.
Right, great point. Bryan Comer with TOBIAS, McCORMICK, and Comer. It's smart to go ahead and get your number, put it in the phone, just have it in case, God forbid something happens to someone. But if someone out there, all of this sounds too familiar and it's happened to them or someone they know, can they give you guys a call?
Of course.
Okay. And free consultation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a free consultation. You can reach us at 251-432-5001, and then on the web, tmclawyers.com. It never costs anything to sit down and talk with one of us. And if you call and set up a time to meet with us, you're either going to get my partner, Desi TOBIAS, Jason McCormick, or me sitting across the table from you.
I've talked about the website so many times and what a great resource it is for all kinds of information, tmclawyers.com. Bryan, thank you so much again for coming in with us.
Thanks for having me, Dalton. Have a happy holiday.
Hey, same to you and your family.
Thank you.